Back open the floor to questions. Hello? Yeah, Carolina.
Thank you very much. I love the three presentations. I have a quick question for each one of them. When I listen to yours, Cedric, I had in mind, I'm very sorry for the people in literature because my question is around from a neophyte, so I apologize in advance. But came to my mind the question of the meeting of the narrative in the book, and what you said about the term I didn't know, of course, hypotoposis. At play made me think of all the narratives I have collected in the same context that really paint people experiences in a very vividly way. But this way, at least in the narratives I collected, is profoundly fragmentary. It's by like little pieces, like as when you are telling a dream or a nightmare. And I wonder, I don't know if that makes sense, but I wonder if these pieces or if it is done in this way, like a sort of collection of fragments, and thinking about what you said about the poetics of attention, I wonder if these pieces, I don't know if it makes sense, but I wonder if these pieces could be at the heart not only of a poetics, of an ethics of attention, but also maybe in what it would be said as a politics of attention. That was my first question. To Yumna, thank you for sharing these very ethnographic pieces. I have two quick questions. The corpse washer see, as you said, see a person and not a lifeless body. The washing went well at once, at one point. It was a good person. We could see it. What happens? What happens when the corpse washer knows that the dead person there, the person on the body, was not a good person? I guess, of course, they do the washing, but maybe in a slightly different way, or there's something to be repaired, or thinking about differences. And another quick question related to, you mentioned at some point that in the very same scene that you said to your interlocutors that you were not prepared to practice. And if I may ask, when did you feel prepared? What does it mean to be prepared as an ethnographer? And for the performance, which I loved, of course, I would like to know more about the process of production. And I don't know if did Denise see the performance? And thank you very much.
Thank you, Carolina. Yeah, just to go back to what obviously I don't have time to explain everything I wanted to explain, but thank you for raising this point about fragmentariness. This is quite a fragmented novel in the sense that I didn't know that in your field work you have those fragments of stories. It's kind of the same in this novel where you have tales told by refugees or asylum seekers. You have elements that are in italics. So you have already this formal fragmentation to some extent, but you also have poetry. So it's not just prose, and so there's fragmentariness in the genre itself, or at least formal fragmentariness, and obviously just elements or snippets of stories, and not obviously, it's about Abdad, but also about Malouk and others. And so you do have this fragmentation that have time to describe. When it comes to poetics and ethics of attention and possibly a politics of attention, I think you're right. There's a politics of attention or inattention, the sense in the I would tend to follow Rancière, this where when it's referring to dissensus, the fact that these stories are actually dissensual, the sense that they don't follow what we're being fed in the media, or they take another angle and they bring a dissensus in this story about migrants, refugees, asylum seekers. So by focusing on attention, care among asylum seekers, but also care outside the story itself, caring for these people by reading, their stories, not necessarily creating an empathy, because I don't think it's about empathy, and I have big problems with the notion of empathy. I think attention is already quite good, raising awareness or trying to grasp or catch attention, but I don't think that's that easy to create empathy, and I think it's overloaded, this word of empathy. So yeah, in any case, I think there is a politics also of attention and inattention, so I don't have time to respond that. But thank you so much. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Close the order of the
Thank you, Carolina, for the questions. Okay, as for the question, what happens if the person is not good? So first of all, I would like to proud to the eye when we talk about science, and if there is a muscle moved after the body, so she thinks she's smiling, or when you try to get the liquids out of the body, she thinks she's crying. So just to show you how beliefs and superstitions and things get into this practice. That's one thing. But in Islam, like for example, committing suicide is forbidden. But even if somebody commits suicide, it's the duty of the community to perform the washing and the showering. So we don't get into good person and bad person when somebody dies. We just it's a duty of the community to perform the washing and the showering. As for reading, let me tell you the truth. Of course, we are part of our research, and now we talk more about the positionality of the ethnographer, etc. The night before attending the first participation, I didn't speak. It's that you cannot conceptualize it, and it's not easy. I'm a human before being a researcher or a scholar, and I cannot just touch everybody. This I cannot conceptualize, and I'm scared of that. So it took me years, and there are certain things that, as I said, as respect of the tradition and the belief, because it is extremely important for Muslims, I don't do them. I do certain things, but until now, even it's like maybe I will never be ready because I cannot conceive it or conceptualize.
Thank you for your question. My research is actually on intimate relationships between asylum seekers amongst themselves and with locals. Looked at friendship and also love and marriages and families. So death is not my topic. I really just responded to this call for paper to work on death. But this death, many people have died. Many people that I know have died in the last 12 years that I've been doing research, and it's very sad. But this hit me particularly hard because I've met her and I've met Rosie. We really hung out, and to see Denise going through that process was also very painful. And so this script I told Denise I was going to write this, and then I showed her the script. And we discussed some of the details. One thing that she wanted me to emphasize was how cremation is so not accepted by Africans, and so that's why she had a very hard time. She couldn't be here, and the song at the end no longer a slave to fear. She chose it, but she only sent it to me last night at 10. Yes. So I see it as a kind of collaborative project, and I really haven't rehearsed more than 3 times, so she didn't get a chance to see it. But yeah, thanks for your question.
We take a round of questions. Sorry, I will take a round of questions to just for the sake of taking time. So, Jean or the other. And so let's start with the 2 ladies on the right, and then I'll go to you.
Hi everyone, and thank you very much for these 3 presentations. I really enjoyed this last panel. I guess I have one question / remark more specifically to address Cedric. Cedric, you mentioned the concept of co-witnessing, and I was wondering whether you could tell us more about it. And since we, the 2 of us are working on literature, would you consider readers to be co-witnesses at some point? And it's just that it made me think of a concept by Yves Citon, which is that of joint attention. Since we talked about attention, and I thought that might be related to the concept of joint attention, and the fact that the readers, when they read a work, provide a sort of joint attention to one same object. And I guess I have a related question, which has to do with the difference you would make between a poetics of listening and one of hearing, if that makes sense, because it made me think of the quote you mentioned, taken from the refugee tale, where the speaker says, you know, you're not going to hear, no one hears, you're not going to listen, no one listens. And I was wondering whether you'd have anything to say about the difference between hearing and listening.
I have a very short question about the questions. You emphasize the respect and the dignity. But I was wondering, because I have another context in mind, whether fear of the dead and fear that the dead might offense of a lack of respect and then get revenge for the care of them. Is it present and is it expressed? Not just respect, but also fear.
Thanks very much for this beautiful pieces. I have one question each for Rick. I was wondering if what you present as attention matches what I would as sociologist, rather as relevance. So not only what I feel as more or less important, but how this is recognized in society of as important or not. How it comes that the death of 5 billionaires is overemphasized as over resourced as opposed to the case to the other case man mentioned. So how the question of what matters, what stands out, is not only an individual, a personal one, but also a societal and institutional one. I was just careful from about what you see as the interplay between attention and relevance astronomists very quickly. Now, on Yuna's presentation, which I also greatly enjoyed for its ethnographic proximity and depth, I was wondering, is a body washer expect to know nothing at all of the person she is taking care of? I mean, how is it that whether as a body washer I know something of the story of the life of that person, how that is going to affect my work, which is highly intimate in the proximity with the body, and how all the background may matter or should matter or should not matter. So I would wonder how the directive between proximity and anonymization works out in practice. And for Siri, thanks again for this beautiful piece for the wealth of emotional science stories in Convened. I was wondering whether you would see this, maybe a bit bluntly, as more an exercise in research, so in producing new knowledge, or in teaching, so in helping people to make sense of it, or in civic engagement, so in making the topic more salient, relevant, and accessible to a broader audience. I was wondering which of the three frames is more important and makes more sense for you in this case. Thanks.
Thank you for all the papers. I just have a question specific, which is it's a wonderful thing to have an African Titanic in lots of ways, but this follows a kind of tradition of non-white Titanics, which goes back to African American versions in the blues and in the oral narratives like Chine's narrative. And I was just wondering if that kind of historicizing of the Titanic, not just in terms of its white masters of the ship, but also of its submersible narratives, might be kind of an interesting way to go. Broaden the horizon.
Yeah, so Cedric, you want to respond first, then we take, if we got time, another.
Yes, so my question.
No, just the responses, because we already have four questions.
So I'll try to synthesize. So I'll start with Jane. Jane, thank you for your two questions. So I think the first question was about co-witnessing. So I think it's different from attention. I don't know if you remember the definition I gave of co-witnessing from Irene Kakandis, where she says, co-witnesses, I'll quote again, have a desire to think about others, to listen respectfully. So I think there's a step further. It's not just necessarily attention, it's, I think, a step further, an involvement to some extent, whether it be maybe a political involvement. But one of the dangers she explains about co-witnessing when you pass on stories or when you appropriate stories to some extent is this appropriation. And this is why she uses the dash, the how do you call it? The what? Yeah, the trait d'union, the hyphen, voilà. Yeah. The hyphen co-witness, where she says that this hyphen allows for to raise awareness about the danger of appropriating the story, and this is to show that it's not co-witness, and she says that we need to get away from this appropriation that is dangerous. To joint attention, can't quite remember Seaton's text, but I think, well, I would say co-witness, there's a more involvement, a praxis to some extent. Maybe I'm wrong. When it comes to poetics of listening and hearing, I think there's, in this quote, obviously there's hear and listen. Hearing is, I believe, the first stage. It's already quite hard for some to hear the story. They don't want to hear it. Listen is possibly the second stage. If you're ready to listen and possibly care. As well, there's care as well in that quotation. I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but when it comes, so I'm not sure, Paulo, this lack of attention, why is your question about why are people paying more attention to this submersible than or people or the media or the value also of bodies?
How you see the conceptual value of the notion of attention relative to the notion of relevance.
Notion of relevance.
Yes.
No. But I'm not sure I understand relevance in this context. This is why. Did you? Oh, okay. Yeah. And Alan, yes, obviously, I didn't talk about all this, say, literary background and all those resonances that we can, thinking of song, for example, Jane will be talking about this, but there's something to be done about historicizing this novel within a larger, broader literary background, and there's much to be done. Middle Passage as well. I'm thinking of I can't remember this 18th century Igbo boy that was taken from Africa, sent to the US, and then arrived in it's an autobiography. Yeah. And so I'm thinking about this as well, where possibly it describes the Middle Passage and how horrific, and you can actually hear those resonances. So yes, I'm thinking of broadening and putting that into context.
Take more than what is done. Florence, I published an article last year. I published an article last year in the journal Zikrit sur la Mort, where I studied the Islamic funerary rites. And it is not, in the 8th century authorized collective prophetic tradition, there is a whole book about funeral rites. It is the hadith, the prophetic traditions, and based on how the Prophet Muhammad washed the body of his wife. So it's really a belief, it's a respect and an honor. Then in the scholarly way, I think the living needs the dead more than the body, and when you wash it and shroud it, it's a therapy for us. But Islam requires the community to do the washing and the shrouding. For Paulo, there are 2 points. First, the ethics, and the second point, whether we talk about the washing and the shrouding in Muslim country or in migratory setting. Because in Muslim country, a woman washes her husband, her son. It's like the family, and they do believe it's a respect. And people who are scared to wash their friends, they call a corpse washer. And there is ethics. The corpse washer says nothing. And it's a respect, because corpse washers are practicing Muslims, and they do believe that it's a duty. And as one corpse washer told me, if God loves you, he makes use of you. Meaning that God loves her, she needs to practice this washing. So like there's this ethics, and you have nothing to know, you don't know anything about this or anything.
I know your question. I have always wanted to use our research to go beyond academia of publishing. And so after doing research with the science seekers, I have worked together with a group of them to found a band called Callous Displays, and they have been performing. They performed between 2016 to 2019, and then you know what happened. And so this is another format that I'm exploring, not just with the public, but also thinking that within academia, right, there are people who are open to alternative ways of presenting our knowledge. Could we find other ways? Could we interact in other ways and not just by reading, right? So this is what I think. But then a second part is about research. Augusto Boal, a Brazilian actor, but also legislator, he founded the format of forum theater. He used forum theater to go into communities and let them identify problems and then come up with solutions within the community through theater workshops. And I thought that is a very inspiring model that maybe we can think of and adopt as we do our research with the community.
Yeah, all right. So thank you very much. So we're going to stop now, but we can carry on this conversation. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's for the sake of time to stop. But yeah, we got a coffee break.
Okay. Okay. So my question for Secretary Concealing. So, what is agreeable and what is not? So from Cedric's speech, you seem to be like bring our attention to who deserve to be considered agreeable, right? So they seem to be suggesting that we should pay more attention to these people. But in Ceiling's monologue, very interestingly, I see you pick up on this term drama several times. Like when those people cry, scream, faint on the floor, you seem to be very critical of their performances. So why? This seems to be a kind of ironic tone in your play. Despite I'm your stage manager, I never know why you emphasize drama so much. So why? So Cedric and Celia, thank you.
Okay, you get 30 seconds. What happened there?
So it's not my being critical. It's Denise feeling embarrassed by her country people being so dramatic and screaming in what is a very sanitized and modern environment in Hong Kong. And so I think she would have been okay if it had been home. It took place at home, but in Hong Kong, I think she was very aware that she needed to present herself as a very civilized and modern and educated person. Yeah.
Yeah. So your question is who's grievable, whose death is grievable?
And what is considered properly grievable? Well, in Celia's case, crying and shouting is not considered something properly grievable, right?
But I believe it's supposed. I believe I can't quite answer this question. It depends on who are these people and who, for example, in Western media, those who were grievable were basically those sent. No, not sent. Those that decided to go and visit the Titanic. And it was, I don't know about the rest of the world, but it was an obsession for, I don't know, 5, 6, or 7 days. It was all over the news. And reminds me also, I have 30 seconds, I know, but you know, when we've had this migrant, I wouldn't call it crisis, but with this migrant crisis in Europe for quite a while. And when the war in Ukraine started, Ukrainian lives were grievable because basically those people, I believe, look like us, Western people, why African lives or the African lives more generally were not grievable. So I suppose it's who are you? How do you identify? So yeah. Anyway.
Sorry, I needed 10, 15 seconds of what is grieving? What is the value of grieving? Because I think Denise, to some extent, was also critical of these people coming in with the drama, but were never there for Rosie. There were other people who were also critical of people's, raising money and demanding everybody to pay up to send the body back. When that person was sick, they never showed up. They never cared.
I have a problem with the word uncivilized, just to let you know.
Yeah, and can I just add something? There's also, well, I can see that grief is obviously culturally specific.
Sorry.